Alright, so over the last couple weeks, I have made several videos detailing how Fiona Harvey stalked and harassed her former boss, Laura Ray, back in the late 90s. And then a few years later, in the early 2000s, she started stalking Laura Ray all over the college campus that Laura was attending. And when Laura had the sheer audacity to report Fiona's constant stalking to the college, Fiona did the only reasonable thing and retaliated by reporting Laura and her husband to social services for abusing their son. Once Laura Ray filed a restraining order, Fiona finally stopped harassing her and her family. But of course, fast forward to 2023-2024, Fiona is spreading all kinds of lies and rumors about Laura Ray all over Facebook. I have made a slew of videos going into more detail if interested. I'll leave a link on the outro to a couple of them if you want to check them out. Okay, so as most of you have heard by now, Fiona Harvey is suing Netflix for defamation of character because she says they lied about her on the Baby Reindeer series, even though they never mentioned her by name. But yet, it's 2024 and we now have a legally binding lawsuit between Fiona Harvey and Netflix. So recently, Piers Morgan had Fiona Harvey's attorney on his show to talk about the lawsuit. So I wanted to make a video and cover their interview and see just how this attorney plans to defend this serial stalker. And speaking of defending a stalker, I wanted to quickly tell you about today's sponsor, Aura. But Aura doesn't defend stalkers. Aura actually defends against stalkers. Not so much against stalkers like Fiona Harvey following you around your school, but against cyber stalkers and hackers who are trying to follow you around online. Data brokers sell your information to scammers, spammers, and anyone else who may want to target you. Your name, email, home address, health records, relatives, it's all out there. But Aura will show you which data brokers are selling your information and automatically submit an opt-out request for you, in which they then legally have to remove your information. Cleaning up your information not only helps reduce the amount of spam you get, but it protects you from hackers who could use this information to access your social media accounts, bank accounts, and other sensitive information. AT&T revealed that over 73 million customer records were released on the dark web. They recommend those affected use strong passwords, monitor account activity, consider credit freezes, and enable fraud alerts from credit bureaus. Well, Aura will do all that for you. So if my info was compromised in the AT&T data breach, I'm not really worried about it because Aura is always on 24/7, keeping me safe. So stop data brokers from exposing your personal information. Just go to aura.com/Gary828 to get a 14-day free trial and see how much of your information is being sold. Link is in the description. And thanks to Aura for sponsoring this video.
This is a more difficult question, but when I interviewed Fiona Harvey, I mean, she wasn't the most sympathetic interviewee I've ever come across, right? She's quite abrasive, she's quite combative. And talking to Laura Ray, who was the Scottish lawyer that she certainly, I would say that she harassed her quite badly, and certainly behaved badly towards her. Does any of that matter? I mean, does it matter what Fiona Harvey may have been like in terms of trolling people, maybe even harassing people, if it doesn't cross a line of criminal behavior?
It absolutely is criminal behavior. Let someone stalk Piers or one of his family members and then tell us if it's a crime or not.
If a network like Netflix, in this show under the title True Story, says you are a convicted stalker, does any of what Fiona Harvey may have done that doesn't cross that line matter?
It absolutely should matter. Just because she wasn't technically convicted doesn't mean she didn't commit a crime. So are you saying if you call social services and give them a false report that someone's abusing their child, that's not a crime? That definitely feels like a crime to me. And she's done it multiple times.
So here's what matters. And you pressed Laura Ray. I actually watched that interview as well. You pressed her on whether or not the conduct that Fiona engaged in was criminal. And she said it wasn't. You have to actually physically hit someone to be criminal.
And that's the problem. There's not much to protect innocent people from being harassed and potentially stalked. Only if they actually assault you will the police get involved.
You even asked her, have the laws changed? Would it be criminal today, even though this is 22 years ago? And she said, no, it never was criminal. I never filed a criminal complaint. And yet Netflix has on its story, while Richard Gadd is doing his due diligence, his research, that she was in jail for 4.5 years.
Yeah.
And even Laura Ray said, you wouldn't be in jail for anywhere near that amount of time. So
yes, but just because Laura Ray said Fiona would not have gotten 4 years in jail for stalking should not mean Fiona gets away scot-free for what she did to Laura Ray and her family.
That's what becomes relevant. The fact that there was something happened with 22 years ago with Laura Ray and Fiona, I don't really care about that.
Yeah, I bet you don't, because the only thing you care about is exploiting this entire situation to make money off of it. Never mind the fear, stress, and anxiety that Laura Ray is enduring from what Fiona did to her those 22 years ago, and is now having to endure more of it since Fiona Harvey has been running a smear campaign against her online. But of course, this attorney doesn't care about any of that. Justice is not his objective. Money is. That's the only motivation an attorney could have to defend this menace to society.
But what I care about is that Netflix and Gadd represented that she was twice convicted, once before and once during the show. But while he's doing his investigation, he says she was a criminal for 4.5 years. And Laura Ray said none of that is true. And even Laura Ray thought that was irresponsible.
Yes, if that is the case, then yes, that was irresponsible of Netflix. But that doesn't mean that Fiona Harvey is innocent. It just means Netflix should release a public statement and clarify which parts of the series were true and which other parts were dramatized. Either way, Fiona Harvey is still a stalker, all the same.
And why this gigantic figure that you've come up with of $175 million?
$170 million. It is a huge number, no question about it. But some of the causes of action in the complaint entitle Fiona to the profits that Netflix obtained from this series.
And how much are you entitled to?
That's what the law provides, that if they wronged her, then she is entitled to their profits. We don't know what that number is. Again, this is very early. We just filed a lawsuit.
Yeah, we don't really know what the number is, so let's just have a nice, clean, round number like, 170 million. Yeah, that sounds good.
Netflix says they intend to defend this matter vigorously, and they stand by Gadd's right to tell his story. But as you pointed out, that's not quite the same as saying we stand by this as being a true story.
It's huge. I mean, to me, it's even an admission. Now, obviously, it's a public statement, but yeah. But I will tell you that Netflix has unbelievable responsibility, culpability for saying at a minimum that she's a twice-time convicted felon. You saw the scene where she's crying and she pleads guilty.
Yes.
That's all fabricated.
So was it fabricated that Richard Gadd happened to write a story about a stalker who did all the same type of things that Fiona Harvey did 20 to 25 years ago?
They list 41,000 emails. They talk about X number of text messages, X number of this. Very, very precise. And I sort of thought, well, they would only do that, Netflix, if Richard Gadd had actually supplied them with the evidence of those numbers of things. Do you have any knowledge yet from Fiona's side? Has she shown you anything which either supports that those numbers are correct or actually contradict them?
We've seen nothing near 41,000 emails.
Okay, so what exactly do you mean by that? Are you conveying that she has submitted all the emails that she sent Richard Gadd and they're nothing near 41,000? Or are you intentionally being vague about it the same way Fiona was during her Piers Morgan interview? So what specifically have you seen? Notice that he's evading a direct answer. He denies seeing 41,000 emails, but he won't answer how many he did see. Typical slick lawyer lingo. So he either did see how many she sent and he doesn't want to say how many, Or he has not yet seen any of the emails, in which he cannot deny there being 41,000 if he hasn't seen any of them. Either way, he's being very subtly deceptive.
And as Fiona said, think of how long it would take to write 41,000 emails.
Again, he's being deceptive. Of course, if you sat down with the task of writing 41,000 emails over a short period of time, that would seem near impossible. But Fiona was stalking Richard on and off for about 4 years, and judging by Fiona's online activity, it's quite plausible. This video I made took me well over 30 minutes to scroll through and read all of Fiona's Facebook posts from just a single day. So multiply this over a 2, 3, 4 year period, then yes, it seems very possible that Fiona could have sent 41,000 emails during that time.
This situation where a woman lives her own life and she all of a sudden found getting death threats, can't leave her apartment, really just inappropriate. Why is Netflix not calling her up and saying, listen, we're about to do this story. We'd like you to look at it. We'd like to fact check them.
Boy, oh boy, this dude is tap dancing for that money, saying Netflix should have reached out to Fiona Harvey to fact check, even though he knows she has an extensive history of lying. So does he really believe she would have been honest with Netflix? Of course not, but he has to play this role. Was she being honest on her Piers Morgan interview? No, she was contradicting herself nearly every other sentence. So she's the last person you would contact to fact check anything.
I mean, my God, Piers, that's all you do is fact check all day. You know what the laws are.
Right.
I mean, my God, Piers, that's all you do is fact check. Piers, that's all you do is fact check. Piers, that's all you do is fact
check. The show's end credits, as some people have pointed out, say the program is based on real events. However, certain characters' names, incidents, locations, and dialogue have been fictionalized for dramatic purposes. Does that make any difference if at the start you've said this is a true story?
And my answer is good luck with that. I mean, that's a disclaimer, which after you've seen the whole thing, to us, it doesn't make any difference. They don't, they put it at the end when people are ready to go to watch another series. They make it very clear from the inception of this story that it's a true story. And the reason why it got such big attention is because it's a crazy story to be true.
I mean, I agree with him here. Netflix definitely does pass this off as a true story, and if there is a large enough fraction of the series that is fictionalized, then that should be clarified. But at the same time, I think the heart of the story remains true regardless of some of the minor details that may have been dramatized to keep the series on track.
In California, is it on you to prove these allegations are untrue, or is it on Netflix to prove that they are true?
It's on Netflix to prove that they are true. She's not a public figure, and there's two different tiers. If you're a public figure, it's easier under the anti-SLAPP statutes for the press to win the case. But when you're this person who sits in your own apartment and all of a sudden you've been thrust in the limelight, they're going to have to show. They're going to have to show that they have the facts to support their claim. And quite frankly, I don't know how they're going to do it.
So because she's been sitting in her apartment the last few years means that the events from the Baby Reindeer series are not true? The timeline of the show was from like 2015 through 2017. So how does the fact she's been sitting in isolation the last few years discard what she was doing 7 to 9 years ago?
She wasn't convicted once. She wasn't convicted twice. Are there 41,000 emails? Was she, did she do all the things that they allege in there?
I read an article online written by a woman who worked at a psychiatric hospital in 2004, and she said Fiona Harvey was a patient at the hospital and would always harass the staff. And then she said she was shocked 20 years later when seeing this same woman all over the internet after Netflix made a series about her stalking someone. So assuming this woman is not lying, then the details of Fiona Harvey's stint in a mental hospital will emerge. So you claim she was never convicted of anything. Okay, so then why was she in a mental hospital? Is it possible she actually was convicted of a crime, but was sentenced to a mental facility in place of prison? Let's delve deeper into her psychiatric history. How much time has she spent in a mental hospital throughout her life? And why was she admitted to one? I really don't think Fiona Harvey wants this case to go to a trial, because if it does, there's going to be a lot of skeletons getting dragged out of her closet. And trust me, she doesn't want that.
Have you been talking regularly to Fiona throughout this process?
Yes, I speak to her regularly. Yes.
And
yes.
how is she doing?
I mean, honestly, she's not well. She's clammed up in her apartment. She doesn't know what to do, doesn't know where to go. She's hurting.
Where's her lawyer boyfriend? Isn't he there to support her and help her navigate these murky waters? And what about all her other professional friends? Why is there yet no one from her social circle who has come out and publicly defended her? So far, the only ones to support her are people on Facebook with blank profiles who may or may not be Fiona under a different account, and an opportunistic attorney who is just trying to cash in on a potential legal loophole.
I mean, she really has been shattered by this.
Do you think this is going to be potentially a tipping point for the entertainment industry?
I think it should be. It's very easy to say this is inspired by a true story. This is based on a true story. I think it should be. We live in a world of fake news. And if this is fake, then they should be held accountable. I guarantee you that the next time Hulu, Max, you name it, Paramount Plus, Netflix, etc., even YouTube TV does a story and they claim it to be true, there's going to be a ton of lawyers who are going through the facts to make sure that they're right. And I'm very curious to see what Netflix did here to confirm the veracity of what they say is a true story.
You know, all they had to do is what they did with The Crown. Just say it's based, you know, they didn't say with The Crown, this is a true story.
I actually agree with them here, and I've been saying that characters based on real people should be portrayed accurately. For example, this movie that came out in 2005, Cinderella Man, based on a true story, where Russell Crowe played real-life boxer James Braddock during the Great Depression in the 1930s. It was a great movie, except that the boxer he had to beat for the championship, Max Baer, was not the villain in real life the way the movie portrayed. Real-life boxer Max Baer accidentally killed one of his opponents in the ring. In real life, he felt terrible about it and even raised money for his deceased opponent's family and was tormented by guilt for the rest of his life. But in the movie, Max Baer bragged about killing his opponent and even taunted James Braddock, telling him he was going to kill him next. Just a gross and accurate depiction of who Max Baer really was. So obviously that upset a lot of people, and rightfully so. But here's the difference between Max Baer and Fiona Harvey. When Cinderella Man came out, it wasn't followed by people confirming what Max Baer's character did in the movie is true. In fact, just the opposite. His son spoke out about how the film inaccurately portrayed his father. Max Baer had passed away in 1959, so he wasn't around to defend himself, so his son tried to set the record straight. But with Fiona Harvey, she has people like Laura Ray coming out and testifying that what was portrayed in the series was in fact an accurate portrayal. Then you had the hospital workers saying the same thing. So again I ask, where are all her professional friends she brags about having? Because it's pretty fishy that at a time like this, not a single one of them have yet to surface to publicly defend her, which makes us believe even more that Richard Gadd's portrayal of her on the show was accurate, even if it may have embellished on a few details.
Just finally, sorry, if it does go to court in California, will Fiona give evidence? Will she testify?
Oh, she'll certainly give evidence. We'll have Richard Gadd testify. We'll have her testify.
This is such a lawyer move. This guy is bluffing. No way does Fiona Harvey want Richard Gadd testifying and presenting evidence of what she did. The emails, phone calls, voicemails. She will be absolutely, utterly humiliated, and she'll never be able to live it down. It will live on the internet for infinity. And this lawyer wants Fiona to testify? No, he's bluffing. He knows better. He saw the interview she did with Piers Morgan. She would get eaten alive by an attorney on the stand. All they would have to do is keep asking her questions and let her contradict herself over and over and lose all credibility. The Netflix attorney won't be tossing softballs. They will hold her feet to the fire and she'll crumble under the pressure. I think Fiona and her lawyer are talking a big game and acting like they have all this leverage over Netflix, but I think it's just a strategy. I think Fiona is just hoping for a settlement. No way does she want this to go to an actual trial. But I'll tell you this, if this did go to trial, it's going to be the most entertaining trial of our lifetime. It will be an absolute media circus. It'll be more entertaining than the show was. It would basically be the Baby Reindeer sequel. Unfortunately, I do think she's going to probably get a pretty hefty payday from this. Not 170 million, which is a ridiculous number. But I think Netflix will ultimately negotiate a settlement with her if it is in fact true that she never went to prison. And I think that's actually her goal, just getting a settlement. Because she doesn't want the truth coming out in a trial, and I don't think her attorney wants a trial either, and figures if he talks a big game that Netflix will settle. And I think that's why he did this interview with Piers Morgan, just talking a big game and trying to intimidate Netflix, just trying to bluff all the way to the bank. Because I think he knows whatever evidence Fiona could present is flimsy at best, and there really is not much of a case here. But his job is to create the illusion of a strong case. So that's what he's attempting to do on this Piers Morgan segment. But yeah, I do think Netflix should have covered their bases better, which is why I think they will eventually settle. But if they call Fiona and her attorney's bluff, it'll be very interesting to see how they respond, because I don't think Fiona wants any part of a trial where evidence will be presented. And I don't think this attorney wants that either. So that's about it for this video. Let us know in the comments what you think. Do you think they'll settle, or this could actually go to trial? If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing. Thanks for watching. God bless.